Hello, everyone. I'm your host, Nick Watts, and welcome to another episode of College Football Under Review, a show made by a football fan for football fans everywhere. So, in today's episode, we've got a discussion on the new straight seating format that the conferences have approved on. I've got my top 10 coaches under review this upcoming season, the top 5 30 for 30s, in my opinion, to satisfy that college football itch this offseason if you've got it like I do right now. And lastly, we can't forget, I've always got to get something off my chest. All this and more as we look at college football under review. So before we get into our two different rankings on today's episode, let's discuss the recent news for the 2025-26 postseason. Instead of a format where the top 4 seeds of the 12-team playoff were reserved for the top 4 conference champions, the bracket will now mostly reflect the rankings from the College Football Playoff Selection Committee's rankings straight up at the end of the season. So the 5 highest ranked conference champions will still get an automatic bid into this postseason playoff. But those coveted first round buys will be awarded to the top 4 seeds and will go to the top 4 teams in the country based on the committee's rankings. Again, this, in my opinion, will definitely make for a better playoff competition-wise, as well as a balanced seeding format for a preferred postseason schedule. Like I said in the previous episode, it's not good when you have this reshifting of seeds just because they won their conference. We saw this happen with Arizona State. They completely reshifted everything. And it kind of put it in a sense to where it was maybe the 5 seed was going to have a better outlook in the postseason than the number 1 seed. And that's not a preferred, way to or method to go about things. It's also a problem when you are talking about the 12-team playoff and it's a casual football fan and you're having to explain to them for more than 5 minutes how the seating actually works. I remember it was Kirk Herbstreit describing it almost every college football game when it was coming time to the playoffs. And I just think it's not a good format if we have to have this 2-minute, explanation of how it works every time we watch a college football game. So the SEC and Big Ten, with the new format, needed to accepted this. If they didn't like it, then that's too bad. Because I feel like if they didn't vote for this, then the narrative would have put them as villains in college football. And when they are discussing the new plans for 2026 playoff, they can't have, this mentality of we're against everyone else, even though they've kind of said, hey, we're better than y'all. We're on a podium. But I think they just had to bite the dust and do this, even though it may not help them in the long run. But I think it's something that they inevitably had to do because everyone else wanted this straight seating format. So I think with this new format, this is incredibly crucial for the ACC and Big 12 to produce at least 2 dominant teams this season to make the playoff and to make deep pushes, to contend against the SEC and Big Ten in this Power 4 discussion of who's the top conferences. Because when the 2026 playoff format discussion rolls around and happens between these Power 4 conferences, they're going to discuss how they want to expand the playoff and if we're going to go with this 4-4-2-2-1 seeding format that the SEC and Big Ten are kind of pushing. So I think it's very crucial for the ACC and Big Ten, just to produce 2 decent teams that are, contenders for the playoff and need to make deep runs. If, we get an ACC or Big 12 matchup between the SEC or Big Ten, this is going to be crucial for the discussion moving forward with the balance of the Power 4. I think Clemson is, poised to be that team to make a deep run, and we'll get into that more later in the episode. But with the playoff expansion coming in 2026, I was one of the people, yes, and I'll say this, I was against expansion. I liked the 4-team playoff. I thought you got the 4 best teams. And then there was always that discussion of, yeah, but the next 2 out could have been contenders. And I'm like, well, it stinks for them. They weren't the 4 best teams. And that argument kept getting, more and more traction. And that's why we expanded, in my opinion. But Nick Saban changed my mind. And we have a quote from him last Tuesday on the playoff expansion during a charity event. And this is what he said. Back in the years, I was never for expanding the playoff because I thought bowl games were really important to the history and tradition of college football. But now that we have expanded the playoff, now the bowl games have taken a less significant role. Like I said, Saban said this Tuesday at a charity event. I'm a very big fan of bowl games personally, and that's why I was against it in the beginning. I loved when I was in high school and in college, the winter break came around and we got to see so many fun and competitive out-of-conference matchups in these bowl games. But now with more and more players opting out, it makes sense, in my opinion, that we make sure that we have more meaningful games in the postseason. A lot of these games are kind of just treated as, okay, let's see what our second and third string, can do. How good will we be next year? And I think what Nick Saban is getting at is if these bowl games aren't important anymore, other than the playoff, then we need to make more playoff games like these bowl games that used to matter. The New Year's 6 bowl games have basically been absorbed into the playoff format. And those used to be some of the best games, and now it's kind of just the playoff and everything else. The New Year's 6 bowl games are part of the playoff format, and so what's the point of watching the other bowl games when these New Year's 6 bowl games were the big contenders and these big out-of-conference matchups? And so we've definitely seen that shift into the playoff being the out-of-conference fun bowl games leading up to the national championship. So with that discussion out of the way and my opinions on, the straight seating format, overall, I think it's great for the sport. I'm truly excited to see this playoff format in action and kind of see how in November, we saw these teams still in it because of their conference championship, and that's still going to be a factor, but they're not going to shift everything, and we don't have to hear Kirk Herbstreit describe every week how the playoff format is going to work to the casual fan base out there. So we now go into my top 10 coaches under review for this upcoming season. So you may be sitting there and asking yourself, what is the, description of under review? So as I was preparing for this episode, I was thinking, wow, yeah, what does under review kind of mean? And in a football game, I actually looked up the definition and thought, okay, when you're looking at a play under review in an actual football game, we're at a critical moment in the game, and it is a call that is up in the air that we need to go to the instant replay and look at it under review. So translating it to, this ranking, I have it as seen as this. It is a critical moment in these coaches' career at their current program, or it's a critical moment for their overall legacy within the sport of college football. So there are so many coaches this season that have a lot to prove, but I felt like these were kind of the ones that are setting a tone for what's to come at their current program or in their career. I had a lot of fun putting this together, and a lot of these coaches are fun coaches, in my opinion, and fun to look at under a microscope coming up into this season. Some of it maybe they did well last season and let's see what they can build on. Some may be, I don't know if they're even going to survive at their program, or could we see a slow decline in their popularity within the fan base and within their, as I said, overall legacy within the sport. So with that description out of the way, we're going to get to 5 honorable mentions I had for this top 10 list. So the first one I want to bring up is Kenny Dillingham at Arizona State University. So he has gone 14-12 from 2023 to 2024. He is 43rd this upcoming season in the 2025 recruiting ranks. He went 11-3 his previous season, and he made the college football playoff to the shock of everyone because they had ASU finishing in the bottom of the conference for the Big 12. And as I stated last week, the Big 12 is this boiling pot of contenders that where you never know what's going to happen week in and week out. So my big takes with him are, can he establish Arizona State as a top dog after Texas and Oklahoma left? So with the first year of the Big 12 without Texas and Oklahoma, those teams really have dominated the conference championship in that conference. And so I think we're really seeing a power struggle within that conference, and it's an interesting race to see who can be that top dog in the conference and take over that spot of consistent champion within the conference. And I think Kenny Dillingham has a chance to do that. He's part of a new wave of head coaches in the sport that are very young. He's an alumni of the school, and I think he really brings the energy that a lot of players in college football are looking for, and he's a very relatable coach. And this is his first head coaching job, and that's kind of why I have him as an honorable mention. I think he's already trending so up after last season. He's not really in a microscope this year because he already, proved that he can create a team of players and contenders in the playoff. So next, the next honorable mention is Rich Rodriguez at the University of West Virginia. So his previous stint at Jacksonville State from 2022 to 2024, he went 27-10. He is currently 51st in the 2025 recruiting rankings. He went 60-26 from 2001 to 2007 with the University of West Virginia. Now, he returns to West Virginia again after leaving for a Michigan job in 2008. He was, a hero in the community, and he proved himself that he could put West Virginia on the map and kept them on the map until he left for a better job. And the next point I have is, will he be a hero or zero in the community's eyes? Now, I have a lot of questions within my bullet points with other coaches, but I didn't have a question mark with this because I think this is actually a rhetorical question. He was, like I stated, 60-26 from 2001 to 2007 with this program. He was a fan favorite, and I think he already is a hero in the community's eyes, but will he lose that if he doesn't have the same success? That was a long time ago, and the world and landscape of college football has shifted tremendously. So it'll be interesting to see what he does this year. But 2 out of 3 of his games in the preseason top 25 are away, and I definitely think it's not going to bode well for him. I think he's going to struggle a little bit this first year, but I'm excited to see what he does inevitably. But first year, second year, he may be under review, but this first year, I think the fans are going to give him a lot of leeway, and he's not going to be pressured to be this fantastic coach like he was in the early 2000s. Next up, as an honorable review, we've got Brett Bielema at Illinois. So he has gone 28 of 22 from 2021 to 2024. He is ranked 44th in the 2025 recruiting rank, and he went 10-3 the previous season and beat Shane Beamer in that bowl game. I thought it was funny that Shane Beamer wanted to try and fight him. I have never seen a head coach want to be held back so much more than he was. But Brett Bielema is honorable mention because let's just put it this way. He gave Illinois their first 10-win season in 23 years. The Big Ten is a very competitive conference, and I think this is huge for the program and huge for him. Now, he did sign a new contract extension that goes all the way till 2030, so obviously he's not under this scrutiny as much as before. And overall, he's gone 18-18 in Big Ten games. I think that's a big thing with how competitive the conference, like I stated, is in right now. It is a competitive market with so many contenders week in and week out for the playoff. And I think that the university is very content with him right now. I think this season he needs to prove that he can continue it, but I just don't think he is as up there with some of our other coaches. Now, our next honorable mention is a coach I'm going to come out and say that I personally love, and that is Dan Mullen at UNLV. So he went 34-15 from 2018 to 2021 at Florida. Currently, he's not at the Power 4 school anymore, so he ranks 96th in the 2025 recruiting rankings. And the school went 11-3 their previous season without Mullen. So I think this is good because it shows that they can recruit and that they do have potential to be a competitor in the college football playoff race. They lost to Boise State. Sorry, I blanked out for a second there. They lost to Boise State, and they had Ashton Genty, and he was a train that you could not stop. Now, outside of that, this is Dan Mullen's first head coaching job since Florida in 2021. So the biggest question is, can he adapt to the new recruiting model? I remember when recruiting started to ramp up, and it was, we were getting these hints that it was going to be this new wild, wild west. He kind of made some controversial comments, and Florida kind of slowly pushed him out. And the biggest thing with UNLV, which I can't believe UNLV came out and said this, and they made this contract agreement, they came out and said that they cannot fund his entire contract yet. This is wild to me. And I think it shows that Dan Mullen wants to be a coach so bad that he's willing to take this agreement. And I think that he honestly is also challenging himself to prove that they should fund his entire contract. So the last coach I have as an honorable mention is none other than Mario Crystal dropped the ball at the University of Miami. So he's gone 22-16 from 2022 to 2024. He has currently the 13th best 2025 recruiting rank, and he went 10-3 the previous season. It was a disappointing season for a lot of Miami fans. They thought, with Cam Ward, they were going to presumptuously be in the college football playoff, but they had lost to teams like Illinois and Georgia Tech, and that ultimately derailed their season in the second half. And that is why I give Mario Crystal drop the ball that nickname. He has dropped the ball consistently, but I think he's continued to trend upward. And there are a couple of factors this season that he is just outside of my top 10 coaches under review. I think a real question is Carson Beck a get out of jail free card? A lot of people in the Georgia fan base, I have friends in the Georgia fan base that did not like Carson Beck. In my opinion, Carson Beck made Stetson Bennett look like the Tom Brady of that Georgia football program and cemented Stetson Bennett as one of the best quarterbacks in the Georgia football program. And I think that Mario Cristobal has proved he's a great recruiter. And I feel like with the hatred toward Carson Beck in the Georgia fan base, it may carry over to Miami. And I think that if they ultimately have a bad season, he can use Carson Beck as a get out of jail free card. And he doesn't necessarily have to do it himself. I think the fan base will ultimately turn against Carson Beck. And he was a turnover machine last season. Now, on the flip side of that, I think a big thing is, will Miami solidify itself as a quarterback school if Carson Beck does revive his career in Miami? Yes, I'm going out here and saying if he can make Carson Beck popular and make him a better player overall and increase his draft stock that he hurt after last season, I think it will solidify Miami as a QB school, and the quarterbacks after Carson Beck will be pretty well. Now, I think there's a chance that Miami will make the playoff, but with Carson Beck at the helm, there are so many questions that come with that. And I just don't think that the Miami fan base is that rabid against Mario Cristobal drop the ball. But we'll see if he does drop the ball this season again. But I still think just outside of my top 10, Carson Beck is that get out of jail free card. That is the reason he is not going to be in my top 10 coaches under review. So now that we've got our honorable mentions out of the way, we are now about to go under review for our top 10 coaches. And this is where the fun begins, everyone. So at number 10, I've got Brent Key at Georgia Tech. He has gone 18 of 16 from 2022 to 2024. He has the 21 best recruiting rank for 2025. And he went 7-6 his previous season, but it's his first head coaching job. And I think the fans of Georgia Tech are liking what they see. So Brent Key was a part of the Saban coaching tree, and it seems like everyone that has a head coaching position nowadays has been a part of the Saban coaching tree. And I think the reason why they are a head coach, if they've been a part of the Saban coaching tree, is because Saban was one of the best recruiters and one of the best. Actually, I'm going to go out and say it. He is the best college football coach of all time. And there's something I got to say, not something off my chest, but I have to come out and say to everyone watching the show, I am a Bama sexual. I am an Alabama fan, but I don't want that to blur my view towards criticizing anyone else. I'm just going to go out there and say that. Yes, I'm an Alabama fan, but I will not let that fandom interfere with the content I provide to you. But I love Nick Saban. I love what he did. He showed that he is the best. And so all of these coaches that have been a part of the Saban coaching tree are going to bring success to their program in some way or form. Now, this was shown that I think Georgia Tech is liking Brent Key because he had a big win against Miami the last two seasons. Yes, Mario Cristobal has lost to him the last two seasons, and he went into one of the best games last season against Georgia, their rival, at Georgia, and went into multiple overtimes and almost defeated them. Now, he didn't, but this is the first time that Georgia has really been challenged in this rivalry the past couple years. And that is all due to that Brent Key is a gritty coach that puts competitors on the field. let's be honest, Brent Key is a football guy. He knows what it's like to be an offensive lineman because that was his coaching position and what he played in college. And he's going to put competitors on the field and they're going to fight. And I like Brent Key, especially when he's on the sideline coaching, because they play a kind of clock management style of game where they are going to run out the clock, give high-powered offenses less opportunities to show that high-powered offense and score. And I think it is a recipe for success at Georgia Tech, as they've always implemented the triple option, but he kind of has this hybrid option offense going on that I really think is electric on the field. And Haynes King is a great quarterback to lead that team. And that is why he is at number 10. I think he will, if he's able to have another great season and maybe get them to the ACC Conference Championship, he will have cemented himself as a great coach and one of the coaches on the rise. And that's why I have him just at 10. So at number 9, we've got Kyle Whittingham at Utah. So he's gone 167 for 86 from 2004 to 2024. He is currently 42nd in the 2025 recruiting rankings. He went 5 of 7 the previous season. So he has the second longest tenure in active head coaching positions right now, and that is from 2004 to the present. And you may say to yourself, well, I really haven't heard much about Kyle Whittingham recently. And I think that's because Cam Rising has finally retired from college football. And that's such a weird thing to say, retired, but he had such a grip on that program the last couple of years. I think that Kyle Whittingham took a back seat, and this is an opportunity for him to say, hey, I can still produce great teams without Cam Rising. I can still coach a winning program, because last season wasn't amazing for him, and that was partly because Cam Rising got injured and he had to put in his backup quarterback. But I think his backup quarterback definitely is more of an agile and kind of Jalen Milroe type of player. Now, that might be dangerous because he can be streaky, but if he can harness that player and make him a more stable athlete in his passing and rushing attack, I think they're poised for another good season. Now, I know, like I said, the bowl games haven't become as important as earlier, but I still think a bowl game loss kind of shows your fundamentals as a team and can show hints of an issue. And he's lost the last 5 bowl game appearances that he has had. He didn't have one last season, but the 5 seasons previous, he lost all 5 of them. And, I think that's kind of a problem. Is he losing his postseason touch? I don't think he has, but like I said, Cam Rising just had such a grip on the program that I think this is Kyle Whittingham's time to show that, hey, I'm still a good coach. I'm going to show you why I've been here for so long and why I love Utah and why you should still come to Utah. And that's why I have him ranked at number 9. So at number 8, James Franklin at Penn State has gone 101 of 42 from 2014 to 2024. He is currently 15th in the 2025 recruiting rank. He went 13-3 last season, but he lost to Notre Dame in the semifinals of the playoffs, and he was up at half. And I'm going to tell a quick story of why I think James Franklin and Penn State fans are so fair-weathered. I was sitting at a restaurant watching the Notre Dame and Penn State playoff game. And when Penn State went up and were leading by half, I went up to the bar because I knew a couple of people, and I said, I've got $10 for anyone who wants to take Penn State on winning this game. And they were up at half. Not a single person took me on that bet. Everyone knows that James Franklin has not produced competitors, and he has not produced a great season since 2016. And I think because of this, Penn State fans are so fair-weathered. They have consistently been good, double-digit winning seasons recently. But if he was in the South, I think people would already be asking for his head if he has choked all these years. Now, he definitely got to the semifinals last season because he had arguably the easiest playoff path to get there. He had to play SMU and Boise State. And boy, those were not barn burners. He had the easiest path, and that's the only reason he was able to compete against Notre Dame in the semifinals. That's the end of that point. And like I stated earlier, the only time he won the Big Ten was back in 2016. And he was just outside of the top 4 in the playoffs. So that's why I have him at 8. I think due to his, success last season, it doesn't put him as high on the list just because he kind of satisfied this fan base a little bit. And I think he is poised for another run into the playoffs this season. So, number 7 is none other than Hugh Freeze at Auburn. He's gone 11 of 14 from 2022 to 2024. Although he had a losing season, he is, yes, that's correct, 8 in the 2025 recruiting rankings right now. Now, Auburn has, over the last decade and a half, been a turntable and revolving door of head coaches. And that is partly due to Nick Saban. Since he has been there, these college coaches that are the head coach at Auburn have had to consistently play against one of the best teams in the nation and the greatest coach of all time. And something that's funny, I also have Auburn fans too. Yes, I know. Shocking, an Alabama fan has Auburn fans. Well, when you grow up in the state of Alabama, you're going to be fans with everyone because at the end of the day, you have to see them every day. But one of my coworkers agrees with me that Auburn has yet to establish a culture under Hugh Freeze. Under, the Gus Malzahn, I thought Auburn was one of the most dangerous teams week in and week out of college football, and that was because of the fast-paced tempo offense that Gus brought. Now, Auburn has to still play Alabama every year, and the biggest question that I think we're going to see between Hugh Freeze and this Auburn team is, can he challenge DeBoer's Alabama teams in the future? I would say one every 5 years, Auburn will beat Alabama, and it'll be at Jordan-Hare. And Auburn's football program and athletic director and the university will be like, yes, we have found our guy. We are out of the darkness under Nick Saban, and they will give him a huge extension just to fail tremendously the next 2 to 3 seasons and buy out his contract and find someone else to do it. And what's one of the funniest statistics I have found is that Auburn paid more for buying out their coaches during Nick Saban's tenure at Alabama, that Alabama paid less for Nick Saban than Auburn did for all their coaches while Nick Saban was at Alabama. And Hugh Freeze's last double-digit win season was in 2020 with Liberty. That was a while ago and in a group of 5 conference. Now, he used to be Alabama's kryptonite when he was coaching at Ole Miss, and he had some of the greatest teams ever. But let's be honest, he didn't get all those players the right way when it came to recruiting, but recruiting has changed, and I think that he has adapted perfectly to it with this top 10 recruiting rank for this upcoming season. I think their offense is going to be very dangerous. We'll just have to see how good their defense is. So moving on to number 6, I've got Dabo Swinney at Clemson. He's got 180 and 47 from 2008 to 2024. And he is currently 26th in 2025 recruiting ranks. And he went to 10-4 the previous season and made the playoffs. He has been a Clemson guy throughout his entire career, and it was the birth of his head coaching career. So I think I have Dabo Swinney at 6 because it's been a while since he really has shown that he has a true contender, not just in the playoffs, but in the national championship race. So I guess the first question with this is, does his legacy begin to diminish if he doesn't make the playoffs this year? I think no. He made the playoffs last year, and that kind of revived the idea that he is still a competitor and great coach, but he has recently had a different recruiting philosophy than all these other teams, and some would say he hasn't adapted as well, but I think he is more of a developer, and I think that's what he is kind of going for now in this new NIL world. And because of that, he is poised to have one of his best teams in recent memory, or at least that's what everyone says. He plays LSU at home in this upcoming season, and I think that's going to be a great game. It's really going to tell us who is a contender or pretender out of those two teams. And something to really look at is 13 out of the last 14 years, Dabo has produced a double-digit win season. Now, some people may say that's not as hard to do in the ACC, but he still has two national champions, two national championship teams, and he beat Nick Saban for both those playoff years. So I think that he will always be remembered in Clemson's eyes as a great coach. I just do think that he's slowly in this dark area of his career, and hopefully he can bring himself back out, especially with the momentum he had after making the playoffs last year. Now, getting into our top 5, we've got Billy Napier at Florida for number 5. He has gone 19 of 19 from 2022 to 2024. He is number 7 in the 2025 recruiting rank, and he went 8 of 5 the previous season. That could have been a lot worse if you were keeping up with weeks 1 through 6. So he definitely walked one of the thinnest of lines last season in keeping his job and almost got fired. I believe the university was saying, we have the buyout money. We are ready to hit the launch codes for the nukes and put that buyout money to use if we need to. But he kept fighting, and DJ Lagway kind of revived that locker room, I think. I just also think Billy Napier kind of held that team together. Now, he leads into 2025, this upcoming season, with a 4-game win streak, including two of them out of the top 25 from last season. And the biggest question is, can DJ Lagway lead the offense to a double-digit season? They, once again, have one of the toughest schedules as they did last year, and that's one of the reasons why I think Florida kind of hesitated a little bit before firing him. But I have the question as this because I think a lot of it does rest on DJ Lagway. He proved last season he's a great recruit and a great player. I'm just curious to see if Billy Napier can hold the team together. And next at number 4, I've got a coach that I personally don't like, and I'm going to come out and say, I don't like Brian Kelly at LSU. He's gone 29 of 11 from 2022 to 2024. He has the 10th best recruiting rank in the class of 2025. He went 9-4 last season. And everyone wants to bring this up. He has a week 1 record losing streak. And this is something that has plagued him since he got to LSU. If he had won these games, maybe LSU would have been in a better spot to get to the playoffs. But ever since he's also gone there, another negative trend that has gone towards him is when he went to LSU, he made a comment that you can't win a national championship at Notre Dame because you don't have the right resources. Well, I hate to tell you this, Brian Kelly, but you have yet to make the playoff, and Notre Dame competed for a national championship last year in the game. Ultimately lost, but they performed better than you did when you were in the playoffs and tried to beat Nick Saban. We all saw the score of that game. And the last thing I want to say is he is the winningest head coach in college football currently. This includes all levels of college football, D1, D2, D3. So why is there this feeling that LSU fans dislike him? I also have LSU fans, and a lot of them just don't like him. As soon as he came to LSU, he put on this fake accent that everyone read through. And he honestly can make a fool of himself sometimes. We saw this when he slammed his fist on the table after LSU lost to USC, and we all saw what kind of season USC had. And so everyone was like, how did LSU lose to him? It's because they have a coach like Brian Kelly. And I just think that he is really falling out of favor pretty fast with LSU fans. But we'll see if he can't make a push for the playoffs. When we get closer to the season, I'll have my predictions for, the playoffs and who I think is going to make it. This LSU Brian Kelly team will always be a throw-up team for me to make it in the playoffs, and I can't confidently say right now that they will make it in the playoffs this year, even though they have a good quarterback. So at number 3, we've got someone that is really struggling right now, and that is Matt Rule at Nebraska. He's gone 12 of 13 from 2023 to 2024. He's the 22nd team in the 2025 recruiting ranks, and he went 7 of 6 last season. The biggest thing for me is he has yet to beat a top 25 team at Nebraska. He's 0-6 in this category, even though last season he did have a close game against Ohio State that I think a lot of people forget. And another question that is going to be asked is Dylan Raiola his savior or downfall? I think he will be his savior. I think he's a consistent quarterback that will end up being good the more he matures and gets experience under his belt, especially in this just super competitive Big Ten conference. It's going to be a tough season for them, but I think Dylan Raiola is a great player for this team and a quarterback that can lead them. I just think he needs to calm down with the Patrick Mahomes imitation. It's kind of scary. And another thing about Matt Rule, and one of the reasons I have him so high on this list, is that we've seen that he can build a successful program. He did it at Baylor, and I think he has the resources, especially in Nebraska, to do it. In the 90s, they were a stout program, and I think he can bring this back. And that's why I have him so high. I'm nervous to say that if he has a bad season, he's not going to get fired unless he has like a 4-win season. Then I think they are in crisis mode. But he definitely needs to turn something around really quick, or they will be in crisis mode, and they are going to be looking for a new head coach in the program. So number 2, and just like number 3 and number 1 will be, these are all coaches that are in critical positions to try and turn around their program. And no one needs that more than Lincoln Riley at USC. He's gone 26 of 14 from 2022 to 2024. He has the 14th best recruiting rank in 2025. He went 7 of 6 last year, and he has come under fire recently due to the controversy of possibly ending the Notre Dame rivalry due to his playoff disparity. So one big thing with him is that we have seen that he can produce top recruits and top quarterbacks. He has had 3 Heisman QBs, yet he hasn't won a playoff game in the postseason, which is weird to think about. You've got some of the best talent at quarterback, yet you can't win in the postseason. And that's, one of the reasons why I think he's under review so much. He has shown that he can produce talent, but can that talent produce hard work? So, and with that hard work, it's going to take a lot of hard work to conquer the Big Ten. And can he conquer it? I personally don't think he can. He was originally in the Big 12 with Oklahoma, and I don't think he's been used to these really tough defenses because I don't think the Big 12 has really been a defense-heavy conference. So I think it has been a big culture shock for him to see these Big Ten defenses, and he's going to need a high-powered offense to conquer the Big Ten. And I think with him struggling at USC, a lot of people might be asking themselves, is he a good coach, or did he inherit a good team at Oklahoma after Bob Stoops had such a great tenure there? I definitely think some of it is a little bit, but I definitely do think he is an offensive wizard, and that's seen through his 3 Heismans. He left Oklahoma, went to USC, and he had Caleb Williams. And if it wasn't for that, I definitely think he would already be in the deep end, but I think he is slowly inching his way further towards the deep end because he is having such disparity in what has been one of the most successful programs in the history of college football. And with that out of the way, all of the other coaches, I think it is unanimous that everyone can agree that my number one and coach that is most under review is none other than Mike Norvell at FSU. He's had a 33-27 record from 2020 to 2024. He has the 19th best recruiting rank for 2025, and he went 2 of 10 the previous season, which is wild considering he had an undefeated season until he went through a buzzsaw in Georgia and lost terribly in that bowl game. This is definitely a bounce back season for him. He is the kind of coach that has been portal over progress. It worked for him great one year. It worked for him terribly another. I think DJ Lagway was a terrible quarterback since he recruited him and since DJ Lagway has been in college football. This is definitely a bounce back season, not for him and what he wants, but is needed. And with a powerhouse like FSU, he's only gone 33 of 27 over 5 seasons. That's not good in the Power 4. And because of this, he had a Google search relevance recently of people looking up his buyout for his current contract. I don't think that's good for any coach, and a lot of people are wondering, will he make it another year? For the season coming up for him, he needs to beat Alabama or at least make it a close game if he wants to start next season really well. I think last year's team was what I like to describe a sandcastle. It looks pretty on the outside. It looks really cool. It took you a long time to make, but all it takes is one wave to come and just destroy the entire foundation. And that's what happened when Georgia Tech beat them in Ireland to start the season last year. And it's because of this that Mike Norvell is the number one coach under review, because I think FSU fans are going to be looking for his head if he has an under par season. So now that we've got all those coaches out of the way, we go from a top 10 to now a top 5 ranking. And this was a lot of fun for me putting them together. In my opinion, these are the best ESPN 30 for 30s to watch this offseason that center around college football. And for this ranking, I didn't go off of like IMDb or some website. I watched all of them. Again, I've already seen all of these, but I had my top 5 already picked out. And every day this week, I watched a different one, wrote my thoughts on it, and had a little review. But I really hope you enjoy this. I love 30 for 30s. I've actually produced a documentary myself, so I like to think that I have a little weight in this discussion. So at number 5, I've got Catholics versus Convicts, ESPN's 30 for 30. So this documentary overall is a good piece and great story about the iconic game of the century from the 80s against the Miami Hurricanes under Jimmy Johnson and Lou Holtz's Notre Dame team that eventually won a national championship that year. So I have this ranked at 5 because it's the first 30 for 30 I've ever watched and got me hooked on them. And the story it goes over is good, but the childish nature of the narration at times, combined with the director's interjections at certain points, can take away from the documentary's pace and main plot as a whole. It's still a very fun story. The game is exciting to watch when they get to it in the second half of the film. But like I said, the director can be a little childish with the narration. In the first half of it, you're kind of like, okay, what's going on here? Is this a fluff piece or a documentary about the game of the century? And I think this is a great one to watch this offseason because week 1, this upcoming season, we have Notre Dame against Miami. So the documentary can give fans a glimpse into the past of this rivalry and what has transpired going forward. So at 4, we've got Youngstown Boys. This is a true zero to hero story in both Ohio State running back Maurice Clarett and head coach Jim Tressel both are from Youngstown, Ohio. And in this documentary, we see them take on the 2003 college football season of Ohio State's 14-0 season and their eventual national championship. Now, this comes at 4 and beats the previous film for the minor problems that previous film has, and they aren't seen in this. And the exciting game film presented with also the controversy of, NIL and the legal aspect shown in the second half of this documentary creates a balanced story that really goes into the glory that comes with succeeding in college football and the grit of controversy also with that successfulness in being a star football player and the mental and physical toll that it takes. And one of the stepping stones why I believe that players are now paid for, their likeness, but also, like I said last episode, they are putting their bodies on the line week in and week out, and they will feel it, when they get older. Now, at 3, I've got the Trojan War. Now, with the new idea of NIL introduced into the college football world nowadays, this film shows us one of another controversies before it happened in Reggie Bush's great season and his Heisman being stripped. And it also is really interesting, in my opinion, because Pete Carroll shows us how he used the name, image, and likeness of not players and money, but of celebrities and the glitz and glamour of Los Angeles, and used it as a strategy to recruit players for USC in the early 2000s. Now, overall, this is a fun film, and it has great pacing, and it never gives you a dull moment, and all the information provided is very essential to the story, and the crescendo of the film ends with the 2006 National Championship, also known as the greatest football game ever played in a lot of critics' opinions. I mean, what else is going to get you more excited for this upcoming season than watching a documentary about Pete Carroll, Reggie Bush, Matt Leinart, the glitz and glamour of LA, and the rise of USC in the early 2000s and the eventual fall of it when they meet Vince Young and Mac Brown's Texas in the national championship. It also, I'll put this, it's a little fun to see the style of Hollywood come out in it, as they will use a script as part of the narration and type it on the screen in a script style format, which is just fun to see in a unique way to narrate and provide information and context for the film. So at number 2, a lot of people do praise this one as the best 30 for 30 and the first 30 for 30 that really put the series on the map with college football, and that is none other than The U. The U 30 for 30 dives into the creation of the dominant dynasty and team of the 1980s in the Miami Hurricanes. Some credit it as one of the first microwave dynasties, which is kind of weird when you put it in a way, because we see Miami now as a dynasty. But in the 80s, they were seen as a microwave dynasty because they were this private school that focused on grades more than a football team. And their football team almost, died, but they were able to turn it around. And the film does a fantastic job in giving you an entertaining history lesson into the rise and abrupt fall at the end of the decade of the Miami Hurricanes. Even though they rose again in the early 2000s, they were able to win 4 national championships in the 80s, and just shows how dominant they were. The game film that they have in here never makes you want to turn off the TV, look at your phone. The game film looks still good, which is wild since it is from the 80s, and the story and pacing that the game film adds to makes it one of the most entertaining 30 for 30s I've ever watched. It's just a great piece of documentary, and there are so many NFL icons that are in interviews and great players that are doing interviews. And it provides such a well-rounded look at what it takes to create a dynasty in college football. Even though the Trojan War goes into that, we really haven't had a dominant team like this since Nick Saban came along for a decade, than the 1980 Miami Hurricanes. And I have this at 2, even though it's claimed as the best 30 for 30. I think the 2009, when it was made, style is outdated, and it's represented in the content and interviews. You can see that in the graphics and other things. But at the end of the day, the perspectives given are colorful and provide amazing insight to this program, and just a great fun watch to see some of the best college football highlights from the 80s. And at number 1, I have the great Heisman race of 1997. This is the most recent 30 for 30 on college football that they have produced. And this Heisman race in 1997, some claim it is the best Heisman race of any other season. And they present this documentary and this race for the Heisman in a unique way I've never seen before. So what they actually do is, the director states at the beginning of the documentary that there are no interviews used. There is no like outside content given. They use game film, actual interviews from that season, actual commentary from all the sports commentators, sports networks, and broadcasts, which puts you in that season, puts you in that Heisman race. And overall, I have this at 1 because this is a fun and exciting film, period. I say this because when the season starts every college football year, there are 2 questions on everyone's mind. And those are who can win the national championship and who can win this Heisman. And this documentary ditches the first question entirely and shows us how the race is stressful week to week in the season and shows how competitive it can really be in any season. This is undoubtedly my number 1 pick for 30 for 30s due to the quality, pacing, and the great representation of the Heisman race that it captures and encapsulates fully. So, now that we've got all that sorted and all that's done, there's something I got to get off my chest. And that topic is, like I said earlier, stated I'm a Alabama fan. I want to talk about what's better for college football nowadays, a dynasty or parity in the world of college football. So I really thought about this when the playoff discussion was going on and, Nick Saban talking about everything, and people want more teams in the playoff. People want more variation in who wins. But I think that's wrong. I think dynasties are what make college football, and at the end of the day, are healthy for the world of college football because it elevates the programs that surround these dynasties. And I'm going to give the most recent observation that I have about the SEC. Just look at the SEC since Nick Saban arrived on the scene and the coaches that have come after his arrival since getting at Alabama. We saw Nick Saban revolutionize the coaching world in not only his recruiting, but his competitive nature. And all these other SEC West programs suddenly had to look in the mirror and say, well, dang, we've got to compete with this guy. And they continuously went after the top coaches and top players. And the SEC West became one of the most dominant divisions in college football that a lot of people can remember. And I think that this happens everywhere. Clemson, Dabo Swinney, the ACC has started evolving. The Big Ten is a little different. I think it's kind of both in the dynasties and program traditions of Ohio State and Michigan have really elevated each of those programs, and all the other ones are slowly getting there. But we're looking at the Big Ten. It's always going to be competitive there. But Ohio State and Michigan, the only reason they have essentially become better is because they constantly have dynasties and trade out, 4 wins against each other in the rivalry. And I think something else that happens with dynasties in the world of college football is dynasties create storylines and icons that add mystique to the sport and creates legends that we continuously talk about. Everyone kept talking about, will anyone ever beat Bear Bryant's national championship record? That was a constant discussion whenever we see these coaches win multiple national championships. And one thing about, parity in the college football world that I want to argue is people want to see different, winners and national champions. But look at the Big 12. Like I'm going to say again, they are a constant struggle for power within their conference. It always seems like there is parity. There's a different dog on top, but eventually that dog goes to sleep and everyone just caught lightning in a bottle. And when that happens, we don't really see the conference competition evolve and get better. I think dynasties create this villain in college football that everyone wants to go against. Everyone has a mission to take down this top dog, and it just adds to the discussion and world of college football that has made it so popular and so great. And so that's just something I got to get off my chest. I think dynasties are better for the world of college football, and they elevate the sport in general. Now, it may not elevate the, popularity and fan happiness. I think fans are going to be happy no matter what is put on that TV. That's being shown with the constant evolution of the sport. But that's just something I got to get off my chest. Gonna say it once again, dynasties are great for the sport. So with off my chest ending, that's going to be all for this week's show. I want to say thank you to all my fans out there, to all the viewers watching this. I want to just make a pledge to y'all that hopefully you see it this week and every week from now. My goal is to progress as a show, as a host, to get better, and I want to continuously get better. That is my goal every week, to get more confident, collected, and comfortable in doing this, and I have a lot of fun doing it. So I just want to say thank you to all my fans listening out there, and I also want to wish everyone a happy Memorial Day weekend. I want to thank all the veterans out there for all the sacrifices that they have made for us and our country. And with that out of the way, for next week, I'll give you a little glimpse into what we're going to be going over. So something that I want to do and I think will be fun is the biggest will they questions for the upcoming season. There are a lot of questions in the air, and I'm going to kind of answer the ones that I believe are the questions that are on a lot of people's mind and my mind. Some of that will be serious. Some of that will be fun. You'll just have to tune in next week to see what that looks like. And another thing we are going to go over is the best games at the beginning of the season and the first couple of weeks for the upcoming season. There is this kind of mantra and name I like to give the first 4 weeks of the college football season, and it's kind of this fog of war aspect. We know that there are going to be contenders coming into week 1, and we want to see how they perform. But I think after the first 4 weeks of college football, we really see out of this fog who are the contenders and not pretenders. So I want to go over some of the biggest season-defining games that programs will be facing at the beginning of the season next year and get you even more excited for the college football season. Now, outside of that, we will also include any recent and relevant news in the college football world. So with all of that, I hope to get y'all's opinions on next week's episode. I hope y'all enjoyed listening to this week's episode. And I'm Nick Watts. Thank all of you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time when we take more college football under review.